Welcome to my 400-day check-in with No Nicotine, and this is actually my second time making this video. I made it like an hour ago. I made it till 35 minutes in, right before going in on the spiritual state of being, and my phone, just died. And when I charged it, I figured, okay, I'll just record that segment, like after I recorded the first one. And I turn on my phone, check my camera roll, and what do I find? That the video didn't even save on its own. So that was something that happened. So I have to go ahead and do that again, and that's not a big deal because I'm positive that I'll get there. I just did it before. There's no reason why I can't do it again. So what I did was I just took a little bit of a break, charged up, and now I am back for the second take of the 400-day check-in with No Nicotine. Welcome to my video. If you're new, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome. I appreciate all the support. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing a check-in when it comes to the journey I've been on, which is so far 400 days without nicotine, and starting with mentally, whereas even to this day, I am experiencing a state of mind that is, let's say, stable, a state of mind that is strong, a state of mind that is balanced, and a mentality that, regardless of what I have to deal with when it comes to mentally, I will not go back on the things that I stand for when it comes to mentally. And nicotine and substance can be used when it comes to mentally as a way of dealing with stress when it comes to mentally, dealing with any challenges that happen when it comes to mentally, dealing with not feeling mentally motivated or whatnot. There's an opportunity that happens when you start to use substances in a way where they help you to constantly mentally feel like you are focused or constantly feeling mentally stimulated. Throughout this journey, I've detached from that need to always be mentally stimulated by, let's say, a substance or nicotine or whatever it may be. So being able to detach from constantly having those thoughts of, when is my next hit of nicotine? When am I ever going to quit nicotine? What is this doing to my body? Thinking about, how is this nicotine affecting me? How is this long-term use affecting me? When is my next hit? And then you take another hit, and then you're just wondering when your next hit again is after that. So being able to detach from being mentally dependent on substance and mentally depending on that to help you when it comes to your mental state of being was something that, for me, I knew I was ready once I started getting the thoughts of, I need to give this up. This is something that's not necessarily serving me anymore, and I'm having the mental thoughts and I'm in the mental state of mind of ready to move on, ready to let go of this because it's not getting me anywhere when it comes to helping me in a way where it comes to mentally, helping me in a way of, how is this benefiting me physically? How is this benefiting me emotionally? Is this benefiting me at all when it comes to spiritually or any of my states of being? Being able to look at it will be your start, and initially, that's what happened in my case. Personally, I was questioning it, and I was realizing that, you know what, I will be in a better state of mind when it comes to mentally, because I don't like how the way it makes me feel. I don't like the way this substance makes me think. I don't like the effect that this substance has on my mental state of being and the mental state of being that it does put me into. That's not where I want to be. that's some place that is docile, that's some place that is not necessarily purposed for creating the best reality for me. Realizing that that's something that I need to detach from when it comes to mentally. Okay, so make that decision then. Go ahead and follow through with what is going to benefit you. So after like I said, 400 days without nicotine, I'm consistently building that mental strength. You know, you're not gonna think about it all the time. Of course, in my case, I purposely challenge myself by bringing it up and making videos and putting these videos out there that are about nicotine. Just as easily as I could sit here and say, oh, it's been 400 days, why don't I go get a nicotine, or why don't I try nicotine again? And because it's been so long. It's more about thinking about how the time that I have experienced without the nicotine has been much better than the time that I experienced with the nicotine. So having that in mind and using the mental state of mind to realize that I'm in a much more stable place is seeing that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm consistently staying on the right path. And the more and more that you go getting over those mental thought forms of, oh, I want to try it again, or will I ever try it again? Just know that for what you're experiencing right now, if you're doing the right thing in order to benefit your state of being when it comes to mentally. I have the mental freedom to not think about nicotine anymore. I have the mental freedom to realize that, hey, these substances don't have to control me when it comes to having control over my mental state of being, and being able to implement said moderation, whatever it may be, in order to experience and exist in the right state of being for you. So mentally, if you value your mental state of being, I'll tell you that for sure you're going to benefit. And it's about that mind state, changing that mind state of, I'm always going to be mentally stimulated. You'll be mentally stimulated, but by things that are not hurting you, but by things that are actually propelling you forward down your path, be it physically, emotionally, spiritually, and protecting and really strengthening your mental state of being to not having to depend on something to think or do a task, not being so stuck when you get stressed, and not having that vice or that behavior or substance to point to and to go to in order to, oh, let me just do this to forget about what I was thinking about. Let me just do this in order to sweep under the rug all these thoughts that I've been having. No, you shouldn't be doing that. And in order to maintain a mental stability and a state of mental balance, I've found that going without something that was not serving me any purpose when it comes to mentally made me and allowed me the space in order to apply my mental capabilities, my mental strengths onto things. And it continues to move on, and I continue to strive for mental stability, mental strength, mental balance. And if you're thinking about stopping, or you're thinking about that, know that you can do it. You are the one at the end of the day that, with your mind, made the decision to physically consume that. So realizing you have that power and putting that power into play, and power to you. So if you value your mental state of being, you know, they say the mind is a terrible thing to waste. Why would you want to waste your mind by getting caught into these patterns of addiction? And mentally, things can have you off balance when it comes to mentally, and being able to take care of your mental state of being is important, because like I said, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. But yeah, moving forward mentally, if you're at all thinking about this, you can do it. Like I said already, I did it myself, and you start to think about the things and the reasons of why you don't continue on doing that, why that wasn't the right thing for you, and why what you're doing now is geared towards your growth and your overall well-being. Physically, detaching and stopping nicotine has, like I said, been a battle. It's been something that I've continued on over 400 days, and I continue to keep going, and I expect to continue on going because, I will not stop taking care of my physical being as best as I can, because why would I do that? I'm not going to hurt myself. That's one of our most important resources, and I'm talking about physical resources, is our body, because that's what we use to exist in this physical world we live in. And there's more, of course, like the emotions, the mind, the heart, the spirit. There are other important things just than the body, but you gotta think about it like this. Do you want to continue on doing things that are destroying your body, or do you want to do things and stop doing things that could possibly affect you down the road? These things could have negative effects on your health. They could have negative effects on your overall age that you end up living to. They could give you effects that you don't necessarily know. And so why would you not take the opportunity to do what you can do in order to ensure longevity with your physical vessel, with your body, and with your state of being? When I stopped using nicotine, I have been in contact with nicotine. I haven't consumed it, of course, because I'm not gonna go back on my word, and I could sit here and be like, okay, I'm ready to physically feel that feeling of nicotine again. But it's more about the challenge itself, and being in a world where a lot of times the society, and where there are limited and expanded hangouts and kind of niches, you may say, in society, where it's perpetuated now as a whole, and to, let's say, validate pursuing your desires. And don't get me wrong, desires are not the pitfall of man or the worst thing ever, because at the end of the day, your desire to live is why you continue on breathing. And the reason why you're here in the first place is because your parents had a desire to conceive you. So you actually got here through desire. So we're not pointing the finger at desire and saying, oh, that's bad. But we are saying is that the challenge enough to not allow something that is a desire that has negative outcomes towards one's state of being and state of well-being, it should, it shouldn't, when it comes to the effects it has on one's state of well-being, it's like, it's about like not being controlled by those desires. It's by being able to control that and be like, okay, so now I am validated. I'm gonna do this desire, but I'm not gonna allow it to control me. And it's not a desire that is leading towards my downfall or is leading towards negatively affecting my state of being. So just that challenge in itself is like where you're feeling the projection from externally, the world that we are existing in. And it's about doing what's right and preserving yourself for the long run and not being like, okay, I just want to feel good all the time. I want to physically be using this substance or constantly just feeling feeling like I'm okay with where I am, feeling stagnant. I'm not going to sit here and say, like I said, okay, it's been 400 days, 400 plus days without nicotine. It's more about continuing on and doing what's right. Of course, I don't regret all the time that I use nicotine, but I use it as a way to learn from it. So as long as you're using it as a way to learn, like, how can I now physically move better? How can I take care more when it comes to physically? And like I said, for me, detaching, when I detached from nicotine, was to not have that influence and not have that action of just trying to feel good at the expense of breathing in something that isn't even necessarily, like in my case, vaping. It's different than air. It's not something that's just naturally occurring. Of course, the nicotine leaf is naturally occurring. It's a plant. And I'm not going to argue that things like this can't be used as medicine. But from my perspective, it's more about the abuse side of the addiction. And when it comes to physically, you should value your physical state of being, because at the end of the day, that's how we experience here. And that's how we should continue on experiencing, is taking care of ourselves. That's something to be strived for when it comes to physically. And like I've said in past videos, I've been around it. Do not fear anything, because when you quit nicotine, you take back the power. And physically, even if you're around nicotine, you think you're going to be exposed to it or see it a lot, that has no effect over you, because you've physically detached from that. You've eliminated it from your reality. So anytime it does show up physically or you're near it at all that's going to do is reinforce your behavior, because you made that decision on, on surety, on reasons that are truth, not just, oh, I feel like this is the right thing to do, let me continue on puffing away at this cigarette, or puffing away at this joint, or drinking this alcohol, or whatever it may be. It just feels good. Why don't you actually raise your awareness and physically be aware that you can put yourself in a better place when it comes to physically? Because if you don't pay attention to that now, how are you going to expect to deal with these things when they come and affect you in the long run? So like I said, value your physical state of being and take care of your physical state of being. Therefore, you can not have to be dealing with the, negative health effects that you can have. And physically, I am not around nicotine really much at all. And for the reason of that is because you're going to move into a space where you don't even care if you're around it or not. You actually, like I said, it'll only motivate and assure why you do what you do. And like I said, everyone is entitled to their own actions. So if it was up to you to be like, now that I've done this, I've gone without it physically, I think I can implement moderation. Let me try that substance again. And now, having the experience in mind of what you've gone through without it and not letting it take over you, not letting it become something where you desire it all the time. That could be a way that you get back into it when it comes to moderation. But for me, I just look at it as, I know how that played out. I remember how it felt. I remember how it made me, what mental state of being it put me in. I remember, like I said, the effects and everything like that. And that's not where I want to be right now. So me being able to be aware of that is definitely important, to have that perspective and to continue on being physically aware of our actions. You always got to be aware of how your physical actions are affecting things around you and affecting the world around you. And not only the world around you, but more, and not necessarily all more importantly, but balance is how, that those actions affect you. And that's basically why I decided to, in the first place, stop my use of nicotine 400 plus days ago. And I think that anyone can distance themselves from negative actions, substances, stuff that holds you back, stuff that isn't really benefiting you, isn't really pushing you towards your goals and living the best existence that you can. I think that you have the ability to overcome that challenge and win that battle for sure. But about the fact that, don't even pay attention to what other people are doing. If we live in a world where people have their devices and whatnot, like, I'll tell you myself, I'll see things all the time. Like, I will see people with their device and stuff like that, and it maybe it entices something because it digs up a little bit of what my past was like, but I quickly am reminding myself, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, I am in a better place now that I don't do that. And I will see that the people that are using those devices or whatnot will be people that are more looking for reactions out of other people other than putting themselves first. So it's like they're lost in a feeling and they have to look outwards because they need that feeling fulfilled. And that's something that I've talked about on my channel before. I made a Lost Mary Vapes Exposed video where I exposed the lies and deceit of the Lost Mary brand, which is a vape company. And that video is on my channel. I highly recommend that you check that out. But you'll see that that is an occurring thing, is where they're trying to look for a reaction from you or validation from you, where you should really validate yourself and take care of within and then without, in order to be, less toxic, not dependent on others mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, but being able to give off your own energy, right?